Hello students, today we shall be discussing about one of the most important biogeochemical cycles, that is the phosphorus cycle. I am Dr. F. Lone, Professor Division of Environmental Science, Class Kashmir. The broad outline of this lecture is that we should first study what is phosphorus, what is the importance of phosphorus, sources of phosphorus and major pools in aquatic ecosystem, forms of the phosphorus in nature, difference between white phosphorus and red phosphorus, then what is phosphorus cycle, steps involved in the phosphorus cycle, role of microbes in phosphorus cycle, global view of phosphorus cycle, ecosystem view of phosphorus cycle, then soil-based view of phosphorus cycle, then the role of phosphorus in eutrophication, and then finally the human impact on phosphorus cycle. As far as phosphorus is concerned, it is a chemical element with symbol P, atomic number 15. Elemental phosphorus exists in two major forms, white phosphorus and red phosphorus. But because it's highly reactive, phosphorus is never found as a free element on Earth. It has a concentration in Earth's crust of about 1 gram per kilogram. In minerals, phosphorus generally occurs as phosphate. As far as the importance of phosphorus is concerned, it is an essential nutrient for plants and animals. It's an important element for all living organisms. It forms a significant part of the structural framework of nucleotides, DNA, RNA, ATP, and other biomolecules. It's also a building block of bones and teeth, and humans contain around 80% of the phosphorus in teeth and bones. It's a limiting nutrient for aquatic organisms, and phosphorus does not enter the atmosphere in very small amounts. When dust containing phosphorus is dissolved in rainwater and sea spray, but the element mainly remains on land and in rock and soil nutrients. Then as far as the source of phosphorus are concerned, phosphorus is mainly found in sediments, water and soil, and the largest source of reservoir of phosphorus on Earth is sediments, typically sedimentary rocks. There is a significant amount of phosphorus in ocean sediments as well. Phosphorus can also be found in plants, animals and soil. The phosphorus cycle differs from the nitrogen and carbon cycles because phosphorus is unable to achieve the gaseous state in the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, phosphorus is found as the fine dust. And then variety of foods naturally contain phosphorus, and the richest sources are dairy, red meat, poultry, seafood, legumes and nuts. Phosphorus from these foods is called organic phosphorus. It's absorbed more efficiently from animal foods than plant foods. Then as far as the major pools of phosphorus in aquatic ecosystem are concerned, usually we have got different types of the phosphorus, like the dissolved inorganic phosphorus, which is mostly the orthophosphate and polyphosphates. Then dissolved organic phosphorus derived from the particular organic phosphorus. It is found in DNA and phosphoproteins. Then particulate inorganic phosphorus mainly consists of the hydroxyapatite, and then particulate organic phosphorus. It consists both in living and dead organisms. Then the major transformation of phosphorus in aquatic environment are mineralization, assimilation, precipitation of phosphorus compounds, and then the microbial solubilization of insoluble forms of the phosphorus. Then as far as forms of phosphorus in nature are concerned, unlike the other cycles, there is no volatile phosphorus containing product to return phosphorus to the atmosphere in the way carbon dioxide, nitrogen gas and sulfur dioxides are returned. Therefore, phosphorus tends to accumulate in the seas. It can be retrieved by mining the above ground sediments of ancient seas, mostly as deposits of calcium phosphate. Seabirds also mine phosphorus from the sea by eating phosphorus containing fish and depositing it as a guano in the bird droppings. Phosphorus can remain in the rocks or sediments for millions of years, and phosphorus tends to accumulate in the seas. It can be retrieved by mining the underground sediments of ancient seas, mostly as deposits of calcium phosphate. As far as the difference between white phosphorus and the red phosphorus is concerned, it's soft. White phosphorus is soft and waxy, but red phosphorus is hard and crystalline. White phosphorus is poisonous. The red phosphorus is non-poisonous. It's insoluble in water, but the red phosphorus is insoluble in both water and carbon dioxide. So there are some other differences which you can have on this slide. Then the phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus cycle is a biogeochemical cycle that involves the movement of phosphorus through lithosphere, hydrosphere and biosphere It's also called as mineral cycle or sedimentary cycle. Phosphorus is the movement of phosphorus from the environment to organisms and then back to the environment. Unlike many other biogeochemical cycles, the atmosphere does not play a significant role in the movement of phosphorus because phosphorus and phosphorus-based materials are usually solids at the typical range of temperature and pressure found on Earth and do not enter the gaseous phase readily. And of all the biogeochemical cycles, phosphorus cycle is the slowest cycle. Then phosphorus cycle. The production of phosphine gas occurs in isolated and specific conditions. Therefore, the phosphorus cycle is primarily examined as studying the movement of orthophosphate, the form of phosphorus that is most commonly seen in the environment through terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. On the land, phosphorus gradually becomes less available to plants over thousands of years because it is slowly lost in the runoff. A phosphorus absorbed by the organic matter in the soil, which is used for various biological processes, and then the steps of phosphorus cycle involve like weathering, absorption by the plants, then absorption by the animals, return to the environment through decomposition, and then there are many steps of this cycle like weathering, like the absorption of the phosphorus by the plants, absorption of the phosphorus by the animals, and then the return of the phosphorus back to the ecosystem. So these are the different steps which are being involved in the phosphorus cycle. Then this is the diagram representation of the phosphorus cycle. That means the plant residues, animal residues, they form organic phosphates, and then they will go for mineralization, and then they will release soluble phosphorus, and this will be taken up by as a mineral surface, and then it can also be it can be also taken up with the plants, and plants can also keep them in their body, and then when the plant dies again it returns in the soil. So these are basically the different steps in the phosphorus cycle as is found on this as you can see in this diagram. Then the role of microbes in phosphorus cycle. Mineralization of organic phosphorus compounds like phytin, inositol phosphates, nucleic acids, phospholipids or orthophosphates. They take place by a wide range of microorganisms that include bacteria like Phosphorus subtilis, then orthobacter also. Then different types of actinomycetes like streptomycetes, fungi like Aspergillus and Penicillium. And then there is a solubilization of phosphorus through their metabolic activities is due to the enzymes like the production of organic and inorganic acids by microorganisms, then the production of carbon dioxide which lowers the pH, then production of hydrogen sulfide which may react with the iron phosphate and liberate orthophosphate, then the production of chelators which can complex calcium, iron or aluminum, and then you will find that microorganisms assimilate phosphorus which interrupts decomposition of the several macromolecules in the cell, and some microorganisms have the ability to store phosphorus as polyphosphates in specific the granules. Then enzymatic hydrolysis of the organic phosphorus also, and then this is basically the global phosphorus cycle. As far as this cycle is concerned, phosphate moves quickly through the plants and animals. However, the process that move them through the soil or oceans are very slow, making the phosphorus cycle over one of the slowest biogeochemical cycles. The global phosphorus cycle includes four major processes like the tectonic uplift and exposure of phosphorus-bearing rocks such as apatite to surface weathering. Then you will have physical erosion, chemical and biological weathering of phosphorus-bearing rocks to provide dissolved and particulate phosphorus to the soil, lakes and rivers. Then the riverine and subsurface transportation of phosphorus to various lakes and runoff to the oceans. Then the sedimentation of particular phosphorus like phosphorus with the organic matter and oxides, carbonate minerals, and eventually burial in the marine sediments. This process can also occur in lakes and the rivers. And finally, after millions of years, the crystal plates rise from the sea floor and expose the phosphorus. Then after more time, weathering will release the phosphorus from the rocks and cycle. Then this biogeochemical cycle again starts. Then you have the ecosystem view of the phosphorus cycle. The ecosystem phase of the phosphorus cycle moves faster than the sediment phase. All organisms require phosphorus for synthesizing phospholipids, NADPH, ATP, nucleic acids, and other compounds. Plants absorb phosphorus very quickly, and then herbivores get phosphorus by eating plants. The carnivores get phosphorus by eating herbivores. Eventually, both of these organisms will excrete phosphorus as a waste, and this decomposition will release phosphorus into the soil, and the plants absorb the phosphorus from the soil and they recycle it within the ecosystem. And then the soil-based view of the phosphorus cycle includes initially the phosphate weathers from the rocks, the small losses in the terrestrial system caused by leaching through the action of rain or balanced in the grains from weathering rocks. In soil, phosphate is absorbed on clay surfaces and organic matter particles and become incorporated as immobilized form. Plants dissolve ionized forms of the phosphate. Herbivores obtain phosphorus by eating plants, and carnivores by eating herbivores. Herbivores and carnivores excrete phosphorus as a waste product in urine and feces. And then finally, phosphorus released back to the soil when plants or animal matter decomposes, and the cycle again repeats. This is the role of phosphorus and nitrogen eutrophication. Eutrophication is an enrichment of water by nutrients that lead to the structural changes to the aquatic ecosystem, such as algal blooms, deoxygenation, and reduction of fish species. The primary source that contributes to the eutrophication is considered as nitrogen and phosphorus. When these two elements exceed the capacity of the water body, eutrophication occurs. And phosphorus that enters lakes will accumulate in the sediments and the biosphere. It also can be recycled from the sediments and the water systems. Drainage water from the agricultural land can also carry phosphorus and nitrogen. And as far as since a large amount of phosphorus in the soil's content, so the oversea of fertilizers and over-enrichment with the nutrients will lead to the increasing amount of the phosphorus concentration in agricultural runoff. When eroded soil enters the lakes, both phosphorus and nitrogen in the soil contribute to the eutrophication, and this is all about the role of the phosphorus and also the role of nitrogen in the eutrophication process. And then the human impacts on the phosphorus cycle, like nitrogen, increased use of fertilizers, increased phosphorus runoff into our waterways and contributes to eutrophication. Humans have greatly influenced the phosphorus cycle by mining phosphorus, converting it to the fertilizer, and by shipping fertilizers and products around the globe. Transporting phosphorus in foods from farms to cities has made a major change in the global phosphorus cycle. Waters are enriched in phosphorus from farm runoff and from effluents that is inadequately treated before it is discharged to the waters. Natural eutrophication is a process by which lakes gradually age and become more productive and may take thousands of years to progress. And cultural or anthropogenic eutrophication, however, is water pollution caused by the excessive plant nutrients, which results in excessive growth in algal population. Finally, in the concluding remarks, phosphorus moves through the hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere, but not in the atmosphere. Phosphorus is extracted by the weathering of rocks. Due to the rains and erosion, phosphorus is washed away in the soil and water bodies. Plants and animals obtain this phosphorus through the soil and water and grow. Microorganisms also require phosphorus for their growth. When the plants and animals die, they decompose, and the stored phosphorus is returned to the soil and water bodies, which is again consumed by the plants and animals, and the cycle continues. So thank you, students, for watching this video. All the best. Take care.